Welcome to the lab, everybody. I'm your host, Joshua Diaz. It's good to be here. And I do obviously apologize for the delays. It's not easy to know exactly where to start from. And you know, a lot of that was sort of the problem, and kind of sifting through, 4 years of 4 years plus of information, that I've accrued, and thoughts and memories of this entire case. And it's really difficult to know where to start. And I think that I finally decided where to start. And that was at first, for people that are just possibly new to the case, that maybe came in late or don't really know much about it. I'm going to try and tell it in the most unbiased way possible. Now I know that there will be people that will say, well, that's just impossible for you, Josh. It's really not. I can separate feelings for certain individuals while trying to tell a story at the same time as accurately as I can without too much emotion or disdain for others, because there's been a lot of that through the years. And when I say years, I mean years. This comes, look, mods, if you please just take care of these kinds of messages. Mary Owens, I don't know. I don't know what kind of attitude that is, but it's just a terrible thing to say, and you don't know that. So we don't really need that kind of energy here. I don't even know. I don't know why you'd want to say that, to be honest. But whatever, we'll keep going. No, Summer Wells has not been found. I have been getting messages, and I don't know the channel, and I don't want you to say the channel. I don't want, but people are saying, oh, well, there's a possibility. No, right now, there is nothing indicating that Summer was found. And as Mary Owens like to point out to all of us, that she doesn't believe that Summer will. And no. No. There's some clickbait thing going around. I don't know who it is, and I don't know who's saying it. But we're not going to get into that right now. I'm going to play a video explaining the circumstances as they were right after Summer went missing, to give you the most accurate information that was put out by law enforcement at the time. Yeah, well, I hate when people do that, because they're preying on people's, and I've heard that kind of stuff a million different times. Oh, they found this or they found that, and typically, 99.9% of the time, it's not true. It's just a terrible thing. So, those of you that are brand new, and for those of you that need a reminder, we're going to go ahead and listen to this, and then I'll take it from there. A 5-year-old girl clad in gray pants and a pink shirt, her blonde hair cropped short, came in from gardening and went to play with her toys in the basement of her family's home in rural East Tennessee. That was the last time anybody saw her. Summer Wells disappeared on the evening of June 15th, 2021, sparking a weeks-long manhunt in the rugged, mountainous terrain of Hawkins County. Hundreds of tips called into the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation have been dead ends, and some in her family have all but given up hope of finding her alive. This is The Lab. I'm your host, Joshua Diaz, and this is the disappearance of Summer Wells. 5:30 p.m. on June 15th, 2021, Summer was planting flowers about 20 feet from her family's house on Ben Hill Road in the unincorporated community of Beach Creek with her mother and grandmother. She reportedly went inside and told her 3 older brothers she wanted to play with her toys in the basement. But when her mother, Candace Wells, came inside a short time later, Summer was nowhere to be found. 6:30 p.m. on June 15th, 2021, Summer was reported missing to the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office. And midnight on June 16th, 2021, the Tennessee State Bureau of Investigation released an endangered child alert for Summer. Shortly after 11 a.m. on June 16th, 2021, Tennessee Bureau of Investigations changed the endangered child alert to an Amber Alert. The endangered child alert is issued when there is more concern for a child's safety, while Amber Alerts are reserved for the most serious of missing children cases, where officials believe a child is in imminent danger. 4 p.m. on June 16th, 2021, officials with the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office and Tennessee Bureau of Investigations held the first of what would be several news conferences updating the public on the search efforts. About 30 tips were called in before the end of the day. And at 1 p.m. on June 17th, 2021, search teams said steep and dangerous terrain, including dense canopy coverage and ground cover, were hampering their efforts. Poor cell service was also making it difficult for them to communicate. 8:40 p.m., June 17th, 2001, investigators began asking anyone who lives on or near Ben Hill Road to check their trail cameras, surveillance footage, and outbuildings for any sign of Summer. June 18th, 2021. Summer's father spoke to media outlets for the first time, saying he was at work when Summer went missing. Quote, "When I got home, I drove to the bottom of the property and I realized that all my neighbors and stuff were combing the woods looking for her. And I realized right then and there that she was not there," unquote. Wells told Times News, quote, "I knew right then and there she was gone because she would never leave there on her own. Somebody had taken her," unquote. And on June 19th, 2021, Tennessee Bureau of Investigations shared photographs of Summer's house and property where she was last seen. June 22nd, 2021. 1 week after Summer's disappearance, the Tennessee Bureau reported receiving at least 221 tips. Investigators continued to push residents in the area to check their barns and crawl spaces for places a child might hide. Specialized searches in the Beach Creek community carried on. June 23rd, 2021, investigators set up a roadblock to ask drivers if they had noticed anything unusual on the day Summer disappeared. June 26th, 2021. The Bureau asked the driver of a Toyota pickup truck to come forward after a witness reported seeing it in the Beach Creek area in the late afternoon or early evening on June 14th or June 15th. Officials said the person may have seen something related to Summer's disappearance. The truck was described as a 1998 or 2000 maroon or red Toyota Tacoma with a full bed ladder rack along with white buckets in the truck bed. To date, this driver has never been found. June 27th, 2021, officials announced they are scaling back search operations. July 1st, 2021, the Polk County Sheriff's Office in Wisconsin told WJHL Summer's disappearance renewed interest in the case of her missing aunt,
Rose Mary Bly, who vanished in Polk County in 2009. July 2nd, 2021, Hawkins County Sheriff Ronnie Lawson told WJHL they have received no solid leads from over the 750 tips called in. July 11th, Lawson told the Times News Summer's case is nowhere even close to being cold. July 12th, TBI confirmed they've received 935 tips regarding Summer's disappearance. In a recorded video, Lawson told the public that everything is still on the table. Quote, "We're still trying to find out what happened to Summer, so everybody is still a person of interest," he said. On the same day, in an interview with the Times News, Summer's father, Donald Wells, expressed little hope that she was still alive. He also confirmed he, his wife, and his mother-in-law all passed lie detector tests in the early days of the investigation. July 13th, Shelley Smitherin, assistant special agent in charge with the TBI, said investigators typically have a credible tip or lead to go off of within a couple of days of a child disappearing. Quote, "That is the frustrating part for law enforcement in this case and for the public," unquote. "We will continue to investigate and search for Summer, and in the public eye, there may not be as much media attention given to this case, but that does not mean we are going to stop what we're doing." And here's what we know. Summer has blonde hair and blue eyes. She's about 3 feet tall and weighs 40 pounds. Investigators said she was last seen wearing gray pants, a pink shirt, and was possibly barefoot. And anyone with information about her disappearance is asked to call the contact number of the TBI at 1-800-TBI-FIND. That's 1-800-TBI-FIND, or the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office at 423-272-7121. That's 423-272-7121. Tips can also be emailed to tips2tbi@tn.gov. Now, some important points here. Agents and Hawkins County detectives continue to search for the 1998 and 2000 maroon or red Toyota Tacoma with a full bed ladder rack and white buckets in the truck bed. This search stems from information investigators received that a truck matching that description was seen in the area of Beach Creek Road and Ben Hill Road in the late afternoon to early evening on either Monday, June 14th or Tuesday, June 15th. And remember, Summer was reported missing to the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office approximately 6:30 p.m. on Tuesday, June 15th. Hawkins County investigators immediately began working the case. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation says a photo of what the truck may look like has been circulating on social media, along with claims that the vehicle had been located. And the photo was never released by law enforcement and is not accurate. And the Bureau continues to urge the public to only share information from official sources. The TBI is also aware of individuals asking for donations from public under the pretense that they are assisting law enforcement in the search for Summer. Agents and Hawkins County detectives have not requested investigative assistance from any private citizen. They say any new information will be shared, but they still cannot share specifics about the investigation itself as it is ongoing. Thank you for listening. This is The Lab, hosted by Joshua Diaz. Like, subscribe, comment, share. It's important to get this out. Thank you.
And so that's the starting point that, give me a second here. That's the starting point. That is the very first thing that I ever did about the Summer Wells case. It was the first video that I ever put out about a active missing child case. Like so many of you, when I heard it, obviously, you see the photo of the little girl and you want to believe what is being told is the truth. And I certainly did at first. I mean, I had no reason to believe anything else. Now, I did not go into this critical of the parents or the family or anybody. I had no reason to. Obviously, over time, that changed. And what happened was we got to hear the story sort of backwards, meaning, Summer goes missing and then things sort of start popping up from the past. And when they did, you start to look at it in a different light. And I certainly did. One of the big ones for me, and I don't think that we'll get to that today, is their very first interview. I think it was 13 days after they sat down with the news. Now, Dawn had done some interviews before this interview that they did, but that's really honestly where everything sort of shifted. That's where public perception of Facebook, really, it was a really big deal on Facebook. And so what happens is we start to go in reverse. So with that being said, that right there, all that information is still valid. You are still able to contact TBI with credible tips or informations at the information that was given at the beginning of this video. And it will also be in the description as well. And so this is titled The Preamble. So this is pre-Summer. This is pre the three boys. This is pre-Candace. Because, and I had always felt that, as more and more came out, that Don and Don would probably tell you, although he does like to minimize it sometimes, that that his past before Summer and up until Summer went missing, and even after that, he had a very rocky relationship with the law. He had done a lot of time, and obviously none of that makes him guilty. Now, that being said, back in Utah, where Don was raised, and I don't know if he was born there, but he definitely was raised there. A story had came out after Summer went missing that his stepsister at the time, or it's still his stepsister, Jeannie, and his stepsister Mary went to the FBI to report him for some, for lack of a better term, unsavory behavior towards them, especially Jeannie when she was just a very, very young kid, 5, I believe. And he sort of, minimized it. And once again, you're just like, how could this be a thing, and it certainly is. And you don't have to take my word for this. You can hear for yourself.
Jeannie. And we did have a relationship when we were younger. And what was? And she's just as guilty as I am. So she's trying to pull the wool over everybody's eyes, like she's a Miss Innocent and all this and that. Well, she's not. So walk me through that. Help me understand. I would rather not, but so we kind of had a relationship when we were younger. Yeah, I was a bit older. I had a dirt bike. You know, I don't know how old I was exactly, but she started dating her cousin, which was about 12 years old at that time. And ever since then, she just wanted me out of the picture. Ever since then. And it started all this hateful stuff ever since then. And how old were you? You know, I don't know. Maybe 15, I don't know. And how old was she? I don't know. You know, she was a lot younger than me, you know, and I thought this, and I remember thinking this, why would I didn't think it was right, you know, but I was too young to understand how girls are too. Walk me through that. So when you say you didn't think it was right, what were you guys? Well, because she was younger. Because she was younger. No, she would play with my thing, and I would play with hers. I mean, that's about it. I mean, okay. And how long did that go on? I don't know. For a little while or whatever, but like when everything changed. And who's Ronnie? She ended up marrying him and having kids. That's her cousin. And what about this other person you mentioned, Tish? What's her name? Her daughter's name was Trish. And the last time I seen her, she was just a little girl. And then the other girl, I'm not sure who she even is. Okay. I don't know. They're all family. Oh, hate my guts. Right. That's fine. They don't want me around Dad. That's fine. Whatever.
You see here. So that's Don admitting to being completely inappropriate with his stepsister, who at the time was 5. He said that he was 12. She claims that it went on, and I have no reason not to believe her because Don has admitted this as well. But he claims, or she claims, that he went to jail around when he was about 16 in Texas, and then came back and on the first day out did that again. And not only to her, but also to her cousin. And that is a story for another day, because that also happened. Now, this all predates 110 Ben Hill Road. This all predates Summer and her brothers. And the whole situation, once that hit, once that news broke, and once he admitted that, it was sort of like all hell broke loose. But that's not really all of it. There were some other things that happened in Utah as he got older. And one of the big theories that has always had legs, and I don't necessarily subscribe to this theory, but obviously it's nothing that could be ruled out. And I'm sure that authorities are looking into this as well, and have, or, you know, but nothing has been ruled out of this case. Okay, that's the word that we always get. They claim, Hawkins County claims that this is not a cold case. How that's possible, I'm not sure. After 4 years, they claim that it's still an active case that they're working on. Who knows if that is them just trying to keep people off their back or keep other agencies at bay? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. They're very tight-lipped about it, but being that tight-lipped about a 4-year-old case with almost zero information doesn't really sit well with a lot of people, including me, because they either have nothing at all, and I don't think that's the case, or the information that they have, they can't prove anything with right now. But nobody, and I mean nobody, is looking for Summer Wells and her family. Not one person. And they've all basically, Dawn has admitted that there is no searching going on. And it is a tragic thing. And I do not believe that Summer is still alive. But I do believe that the case is solvable. And I do believe that they're one tip away from being on the right track. 4 years is a very, very long time. Obviously, Summer was 5 when she went missing. If she was alive, she would be 9 years old. However, basically, she's frozen in time still at 5. But like I said, one of the big theories that has always been out there was that Summer had been sold. And like I said, I don't necessarily believe that. Some people do, and I will not argue with you about it. I mean, and the reason a lot of that came up is not only is child trafficking an incredibly serious and disgusting thing that has been going on for quite a while. The reason that theory first poked its head through was because allegedly that there were 3 different people that witnessed this, or he admitted it to. Now, Dawn says that this is not true. He unequivocally denies this. But in Ogden, Utah, Dawn had been accused of being junkied out, which he freely admits to. I mean, I don't know how you don't, because I mean it's obvious from his criminal record. But with that being said, as well, he allegedly had a sign that said that he was selling his son, that his son was for sale on a street corner, and that he made a cardboard sign. And his stepsister, who everything that she's ever told me has turned out to be true, and his wife at the time, Pam, both confronted him about it, and that they knew that that was something that he had done, or that he was trying to do. He was trying to get money for drugs. Now, to be completely fair, Dawn denies this, and I don't have any proof one way or the other that this did happen. I typically, because of the relationship that I have with Mary, and even Jeannie, I don't know how, I don't know why anybody would make that up. I just don't know. I wish that it was made up. I wish that it wasn't true. I hope that it's not true. But who really knows if it is? But I believe the information to be correct. I just, for some reason, I do. Probably not. Probably not. So that really is where that's really the starting place. If you go all the way back, Don also was arrested for breaking and entering into a house and stealing panties out of a lady's house. He stole her panties out of her drawer, took them, hid in a van, and did whatever he does with those. Was caught by the police, arrested, and charged with some pretty lewd acts. Okay. And he went to jail for it. He had cocaine on him at the time. Which is just, if you were to talk to any criminologist, any of them, this panty snatching situation is the stuff of nightmares. It's such an invasion of privacy, and it is such a perverted mindset. And I'm sure that what he would say, and I know that this happened because I read the police report. The police wrote this, and I read it. I think I read it on the air at the time, and it just happened. A lot of these things aren't really nice to talk about. It's just it's a terrible thing, and you can see why a lot of people look. The interest in this case has waned, and that's terrible because it's just not over. It's not over, and I don't think that I hold out hope that something happens and that justice is served. However, it's hard to get excited or up about anything. You see in the chat already, somebody was claiming just the other day that the remains were found and they think that it's Summers and all this shit. And that's kind of why a lot of people backed away from this case. Like it happens in a lot of cases because there's so much misinformation. I may not like Dawn or Candace very much at all, and I'm sure that they don't care for me much either. However, I'm not Is that better? Are we back? Let me see. Are we back? Are we good? All right, we're back. Okay. So this story now goes to a different area with Don's two first children, who marry his stepsister, who also claims that he tried to abuse her with two other friends, and he's told that story before, and the story is so odd from his point of view that who would know, if he's telling, I don't think I think like a lot of things that he minimizes his behavior. Well, there you go. And I'm sure that you follow this as well. Josh, I'm in Hawkins County, Tennessee, and I haven't heard anything about her remains being found, nor have I. He did. He claimed he rescued his sister from his two friends that were trying to do something terrible to her. Well, we haven't got there yet. We're still in Utah. Don had two kids. One of them now, his name is Don Wesley. I think it's Donald Wesley Wells Jr., who is a registered sex offender. Don is a unregistered sex offender. And I think he got in trouble for not re-registering as of a couple of years ago, but then he did register. Now, I will say this. I have a problem with anybody that admits to anything like that, or that has been convicted of anything like that when it comes to children. I don't care if he was 12. I don't care if he was 10. The fact of the matter is he was the older person in the situation. And there is no excuse, none, to say that they had a relationship, that it was her that started it. It's one of the most grotesque things that anybody has ever said. And Don has a history of saying stuff like that. He can't get out of his own way most of the time. He just says these awful things that just are not true. The fact that anybody, and I said this to Don. I said, Don, if you were to stand in front of a judge and say, look, judge, she came at me and she was the aggressor, or a cop, or anybody for that matter, what would be said was, okay, so you were 5, Don? And he would say, no, she was. Okay, Don, how old were you? Well, I was 12. And then you go, wow, how does that make any sense? And he never even recanted or backed down. Matter of fact, he doubled down. He claimed that he was the victim in all this and that this was used against him. And, there are going to be some people that are upset that I'm talking about this again, that I'm bringing this up again. I couldn't care any less. I feel the same as I always have about this case. And just looking back, after even taking just sort of a somewhat of a sabbatical from it, just not even, you always kind of keep an eye out and you always keep an ear out, but most everything that is brought up is false. And it's just a really odd thing that, and I don't know if there's a correlation or not. I'll let you decide that. But the fact that his stepsister was 5, Summer went missing when she was 5. It could it be a coincidence? Maybe. But it was enough of a bother. It was enough of a gut punch for his sister to go to the FBI and tell them about this. All right, look, I'm going to say this again. The answer is no. I don't really either, but it's still a possibility. But no, Summer has not been found. There have not been remains that have been found. That's another thing about this case. Like I said, this is it's shrouded in this kind of stuff. And that's one of the most annoying things about covering this case, is because there's so much misinformation that is put out there, and people say, well, you do it too. Well, I don't. I promise you, everything that I'm telling you is either my opinion, or I'll tell you, look, I can't verify this if it's fact or not, or I know this is true, or I don't know this is true. I will absolutely every time tell you that, because it doesn't benefit anybody for me to lie about what has been going on. I just couldn't do that. Now there are people that do, and there are people that use whatever you would call it, clickbait, and it sounds like that has happened again. I mean, it's just nonstop with this. And Alicia Hot Wheels, thank you for becoming a member. And Kimberly, thank you so much for your super sticker. It's very kind. Also, Jim Coddington, shout out to you, buddy. Good to see you. I haven't seen that name in quite some time. Glad you keep Sweet Summer's story out there, Josh. Well, I appreciate it. And like I said, that this is a case that has lost a lot of momentum. It has lost a lot of interest because of time, because of games that have been played, lies that have been told, the characters that are involved. And I appreciate that. I really do appreciate you saying that, because I think that am I critical? I certainly am critical. That's never been a question. And I won't apologize for being critical about the case. I just won't, because, well, let me just go back here, and then we'll reset again. Don Wells lost his first set of children, his son and his daughter, to CPS. They tended to move around. They tended to move around a lot, and kind of to avoid, CPS and things like that. And that's a thing that people do state to state. And I think way back, eventually it caught up with him and his wife, and his children were removed from his care. The same thing happened to Candace in another relationship. But not only did that happen, it was alleged, and I believe it to be true, and I don't know if it was her. I've never been able to verify this. Never been able to verify this, but that well, I don't know if I want to say it, but because it's not something that there was alleged abuse with one of Candace's children, so much so that he suffered some brain damage and was also removed from their custody and care. Now, I don't know who exactly was responsible for that. I don't know if it was Candace. I don't know if it was her at the time husband or whatever, boyfriend, something. But she lost 2 children, and then another child of hers was taken at the hospital because she tested positive for drugs. And I don't know what drugs those were, but I know I know that that's true. I know that's true 100%, that she lost a third baby that was taken from her at the hospital. So when you sort of back that up there, before Summer and her brothers were ever even introduced into this world, you have two people that have lost 5 children on a collision course to make a family. And that train went so far off the tracks on June 15th, 2021. What are you doing? Sorry. Dawn is close. I believe Dawn is about 18 years her senior. Candace's. And I think if I remember correctly, that they, for some reason, met that she was a carny and he was I don't know what he was. Dawn has said they never intended to have kids. But if you know, Candace had a very tumultuous childhood growing up. It wasn't an easy go for her, as you could tell. But at some point, you take responsibility for your own life. Trust me. I mean, it sucks. I get it. I get having a hard childhood. It's not a great thing. And I am sympathetic to that, sort of. Not anymore. I'm not sympathetic about it anymore because it's just, I mean, it's just not, it's not something that could be used as an excuse when you get that age. I mean, you just can't. People do, and people will make excuses for it, and people do make excuses for it. Yes, Little Miss Sharon, that is a fact. Hold on. I'll put that up there because people do keep asking, and it's just not true. Little Miss Sharon says, just clarifying, Summer's remains have not been found. Just crazy. It's just crazy. So, like I said, you have these two paths meeting, and that's really where it all starts. Immediately when they got together, they started having kids almost immediately. When I say almost immediately, I mean almost immediately. Josie was, I mean, it wasn't, God, I don't know. It was pretty fast. Let's see. Hey, Mary, good to see you. How are you? And yeah, go sub up to Mary's channel. She's got a great cooking channel. I love it. I still make those wings. God, they're so good. All right, so let's just talk about the situation. Let's talk about the disappearance, because we did cover that a little bit in the very beginning. But the story goes that on June 15th, and this is just a summary, okay? Because I know there's so much more to it, and if you go and watch some of my old videos, we go into great depth and detail about it. That June 15th, 2021. Dawn goes to work around 7 or so, like he says. And he's supposedly working about 45 minutes from home. Candace has to take her mother to the hospital. But before that, she initiates a conversation with a young man named Hunter. And Hunter became a key, and is still a key figure in this case. And the details of their relationship are murky at best, but I don't know exactly how inappropriate it was. However, she denies that day buying him alcohol and vapes. I believe he was like 13 or 14 at the time. He was a very, very young boy. One of the last people to be around Summer before she disappeared, according to Dawn and Candace. And everybody and the police and everything, he admits it. So they go to this place called Warriors Park, Warriors Path. I always get that mixed up. It's a little swimming hole. And there's a very infamous video of Summer playing in this pond or this lake or whatever it is. And that was supposedly from the day that Summer disappeared, that she was taken. And then there's a video of her riding in the truck or whatever. I think it was the truck, in the backseat of the truck. And she was laying on some milk jugs and she was asleep. And a lot of kids fall asleep, before. A lot of people don't believe that she was in a very, people zoomed in on it and all this stuff. And look, I'm not really into that because I don't know. It would be really hard for me to speculate if she, what her state was. She looked asleep, but there are people saying, well, the milk and all this stuff, and we can go into that later. But it just didn't make it. It just didn't make any sense. But so she gets home around 2:00, I believe, something like that. Hold on a second. She gets home around 2:00. Let me pull up this timeline here. Okay, so about 2 to 2:30, she drops off Hunter, and the picture of Summer with the milk jugs was exactly how that baby was before they left. That was a quote by Allison, and Candace said that she fell asleep maybe 5 minutes down the road with her arm up, and that they were 2 minutes from the house when she took her arm down. She was asleep, leaning on the milk jugs. Around 3:09, Candace says the photo of Summer's arm down and leaning on the jugs of milk is taken, and they were about 5 minutes up the road from home. At 3:15, Candace says, what's happened there? When we got to the house, we unlocked the gate, we went up, and I woke her up. She got up, but not only did she say she got up, she said she got right up. I unbuckled her and she got out of the car. So there was a conversation with Chris when she said, oh yeah, she just jumped right up when I woke her up. And I don't know how many groggy kids do that personally. 3:30 p.m. that day, Dawn Wells he stated in an interview that their phones are wiped from 3:30 on at this point. And then per Candace, that Candy Hare grabbed the boys who had been home the entire time to help them with groceries. This is 3:30. 3:30 still, okay? That day. They go into the house, they sort the groceries. Grandma took hers and went over to her trailer on the property to put things away. Candace and Summer stayed in the house and they put groceries away, watched TV off and on, and hung out with the boys. Then Candace started some laundry. Okay. I'm just telling you what she said. Per Candace, she steps outside, sees her mother on the steps of the trailer looking at the plants on the ground, and tells Candace they need to be transplanted into bigger pots. Succulents, by the way. Not really. I mean, they're cactuses. They're cacti. Whatever. Cacti? Cactuses? Anyway. Okay, so she said that they needed to be transplanted into bigger pots. Okay. Summer comes out and plants with Candace and her mother and grandmother for about 30 to 50 minutes. That's the time range. And you'll hear a lot of this where they say that the time frame doesn't make sense. And that they always say that they're not good with times. I've heard of a thing called Tennessee time. Maybe that's a thing. I really don't know. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. They called, then Grandma called Summer over for a piece of candy. Peppermint was apparently her favorite. That's what I heard. And the interview on January 28th, Candace stated that she was not certain how many hours passed from the time they got home to when Summer disappeared. Quote, I really can't tell you all the time details because time gets away from you when you're trying to enjoy yourself. Now, I won't say anything negative about her not knowing exactly times, but I mean, you can ballpark it. I mean, you're not going to lose that many hours. And somewhere between 4:30 to 4:42 that day, per a neighbor, which we now know as Jody Sue, she says her and her kids were in the cabin and they heard a scream happen outside. Said it sounded so different and wrong, and everyone got quiet in the house. It was that strange. Could have been something, could have been nothing. Candace says at 5 o'clock, let's see. At 5 o'clock, by then they were assisting in the search. Oh, excuse me. Sorry. So this is between 4:15 and 4:30. Per Candace, Summer then asked to go back in the house with her brothers. And Candace states that she got up and she walked her back across to where she could literally see her walk into the kitchen, into the home. And then Candace says that she goes back to Grandma's trailer to help her fix her knee brace for about 2 to 5 minutes. And then, per neighbor, her and her kids were in the cabin and they heard the scream that happened outside. Okay, so that's between 4:30 and 4:32. At 5 o'clock, Jody Sue says that she was assisting in the search for Summer, which is interesting, and we'll get to that because there is major time discrepancies here. major. It's just like a terrible. Thanks for keeping Summer's name and awareness alive. Thank you, Kelsey. Appreciate that. And Kelsey gifted 5 lab memberships, and thank you for that. And Samantha gifted a membership as well. Thank you. So, okay, so here we are. She goes, so this is when Candace realizes that Summer is missing. She goes back in the home, yells a few times for Summer, and then goes downstairs to check and realize she is just gone. She sends the 3 boys down to the creek to look for Summer. Then, when they did not find her, Candace called Dawn, because that's what I do automatically. I freak out, you know. Dawn was working in Jonesboro, and Candace calls from her own phone, then drops her phone and runs to her mother to get the phone and call 911. When told about the scream at a later date, Candace states that she was inside looking for Summer when it happened, and that the TV was on and she did not hear a thing. Candace called 911, according to Candace, that she called 911 on her mother's phone, then drives her mom's truck all the way down by the church, and then went all the way down the other way. I didn't see nobody even out and about. Then I went back. Then I went all the way back in the holler as far as a truck could go, and I didn't see nothing back there either. When I was coming back up to the holler, the cops were coming up in my driveway. So this is between 5:35 and 6:26. So I just followed them up here. I don't recall if Don was here before the police got here or if he was here at the same time they showed up. Now, Don claims that he got there before the police, which I'm not sure how he would know that or how that would be possible. Per Don, he then says that he calls 911 from work at 6:29. And then he also loads up his tools, because they're very expensive tools, from his, what is it, his framing job? Is that what it is that he has? He makes about a 45-minute drive home in 25 to 30 minutes. Per Don Wells, he arrives before LE, but many neighbors were already searching when Don Wells arrives at the shed, the infamous shed that you've heard so much about. And Susie Q73, thank you so much for donating 5 lab memberships. It's very kind of you. So at 7:03, the search and rescue has started. And at 7:30, Hunter said that it was a short period. Excuse me. It was a short period of time after they dropped me off that they said she went missing. Hunter says that Candace contacts him that night to tell him. Now, Candace also has claimed that it was about 10 minutes from the time that Summer went missing to the time that she contacted law enforcement. However, there's this chunk of time from dropping Hunter off between 2 and 2:30 to about 6:26 when the actual call was made to 911, that there's just, it's like 4 hours missing. 4 at least, which is an incredible amount of time, unaccounted for time, and time that, you know, we're doing we're doing dishes or whatever, laundry, we're putting groceries away, we're planting flowers, where they're doing a lot of domestic stuff. And I'm not trying to house shame them, but if you've ever seen their house, I don't know how true that is. I mean, it's just a really long time for an unaccounted a child. They claim after that she was just missing. They claim that somebody, they don't know who, and to this day, came up onto the property in the middle of the day, late afternoon, but I mean, it's still bright outside. There's at least 13 dogs that are very aggressive and do not like strangers showing up, that are very loud. That Summer walked into the basement right past her brothers who were in the living room to go play with her toys. And that somebody snuck up into their house with 3 boys, her and her mother, 13 dogs, and successfully took her out of that house. Without anybody noticing. I mean, I just, look, if you're following this case with baby Emmanuel, you hear these like stories that just don't make any sense. I mean, you know how rural it is where Dawn and Candace live. I mean, it's in the middle of absolutely nowhere. No, absolutely. There's nothing around. Nothing. Yes, there was a couch blocking the door, and we'll get into that on the next one. Let me see here. Josh, please watch your back and keep all your ducks in a row. I worry that some of these near do wells you could cover you or could target you. You have much love here online, but we're miles away. I appreciate that. And it's nothing, it wouldn't be anything new. I appreciate it, and I understand that you saying that. And PG little girl, thank you so much as well for that. Now, when asked about the dogs on the day of the disappearance, Dawn said that the dogs were gone that day. Now, Dawn wasn't home, allegedly, for most of the day. He wasn't at home for part of the day, all of it, or something. I don't know. I mean, there's so many inconsistencies there. You really don't know. You don't know if he's telling the truth or not. But just going by what he's saying, this is kind of a double-edged sword for him, because how would he know where the dogs were if he was 45 minutes away from home that day? Dawn says that he was not home. Now, I believe I can't remember. Does Hunter count? Does he give a different account of that? I can't remember. And we're going to go through that. We're going to go through some of those things as well. But I just have very little faith in the things that he said, because I mean, I've caught him lying intentionally, and that's kind of what he does. Don likes to play games, but that's my personal feelings and personal effect. Like, that's how I feel that what Don does sometimes. It's never been proven that he wasn't home or that he was home. No, other than his word and Candace's word, nobody knows. Hunter said that that Dawn wasn't at work that day, is from what I understand. I believe. I mean, is that true? Is that I thought that's what he said. But once again, all of these things should be able to be verified. They should be able to be vetted. They should be able to, once again, like in the case of young Emmanuel, baby Emmanuel, like nothing that has been told in this case by Dawn and Candace has been verified by anybody, including law enforcement, including others. The people closest to them do not believe that. Where would that many dogs go? They wouldn't go anywhere, to be honest with you. I mean, they all took a vacation the same exact day. And Phoebe, thank you so much for your super sticker. It's very kind of you. Don and yes, he did. Well, I do not believe that Candace actually called 911, and I have very good reason to believe that. Now, I can't verify it, but I do not believe that Candace ever called 911. I believe Dawn did, and I believe somebody else did. I think possibly one of the boys, but I don't think that Candace ever actually called. She says that she did, and none of those calls have been released. None of them. The only call that has been released is the dispatch call, and I can play that for you. Let's see here. And by the way, her account given to the dispatch is different than the story that she tells and he tells. And let me see. Here we go. Can anybody tell me the score of the Padres game?
Should be the first residence on your right. Reverend Hill Road off of Beach Creek should be the first residence on your right. Reference to a missing 4-year-old. The parents have called in and advised that the mother had went for a walk.
So the dispatcher there, I know it's hard to hear, but the dispatcher says that the parents have called in. She doesn't say which parent. She doesn't say that is Candace. Which I think that if Candace was the one, she would have probably said that, the mom was the one, but just listen. 4-3. God dang it.
Reverend Hill Road off of Beach Creek should be the first residence on your right. Reference to a missing 4-year-old. The parents have called in and advised that the mother had went for a walk. Came home. Now they can't find her. They've been yelling for her. She's been gone for about 10 minutes now.
Okay, so she's been gone for about 10 minutes now is what they say. 10 minutes. But that can't be true because it sounds as though that people were searching for Summer around 5 o'clock. This phone call takes place at around 6:30. 6:30. And she said that the mother had went for a walk. Later on, Candace says that she doesn't go on walks because she's scared of bears and animals. Now, the timeline is completely foobar, and that's what I think too. I do not believe that Candace made a phone call. Now, once again, I don't have 100% proof of that, but that's how I feel.
yelling for her. She's been gone for about 10 minutes now.
Yeah, for what was it, America?
Yeah, 110.
Somebody, and I don't know who, I know Dawn called, and I think that one of the children called, but somebody told the 911 dispatcher that Candace had went for a walk, was gone for about came back, and Summer was gone. She'd been gone about 10 minutes by the time that she called law enforcement. And that just cannot, I mean, those two things, none of that can be true. I mean, there's a bunch of, I mean, and these stories to me aren't even close. That's the weird part about it. They're not even remotely close. You know, you would have some grace for people, for somebody, if the story was even remotely close. It's not. What dispatch is saying and what was reported to 911, we don't know who called exactly. I believe Dawn called, but I do not believe Candace ever made that call. I think one of the boys did call 911, but I can't prove that.
335, I'll be around as well. Go ahead.
Candace has a habit, and maybe this from the encapsulation of being raised the way she was, or the drug use at a very young age, and sort of kind of never grew up. But she kind of shrieks at all of motherly responsibility when it comes to being an advocate for her child that is missing. It's been over 4 years now, and we have really one official interview, and it went horribly wrong, and the world started not the world, but I mean most people started to turn on them.
Go ahead, rescue fire police for search. 335. You say when you got the original call?
The scream was unfounded. They didn't say that the scream didn't happen. They just, what they said was if it did happen, they didn't feel that it had anything to do with what was going on. That was just what they didn't have any information one way or the other if it did or didn't have to do with Summer going missing. That's what I took away from it. Not that it was a lie, not that it was fabricated, but that it just maybe didn't mean anything. That's how I took it.
The mom went on a run, and when she came back, the daughter was gone.
That's what the father advised. He's at work about an hour away, trying to make his way home.
So Don told he's about an hour away.
Careful. C12 Central. C12 will be in or out.
Well, look, Genevieve says in Tennessee, you file public information requests, not FOIAs. These forms can be found on Tennessee's court website. It's an active and ongoing investigation, and they will turn over nothing. Which is probably pretty normal, I guess. Although it's, like I said, it's been 4 years. It would be something to definitely look back into.
906. 29 seconds. Notify 302. I had him on the phone with both of them. You're on Answer any questions he may have on him.
10-4. Do you want us to try to contact the canine?
Let 302 know, and I think he's going to let rescue make that determination.
Yeah.
29, go ahead.
302 has been notified. Yeah.
Let's see. Sweet and Sad says, could she have left in the car and she got hot enough to pass and then just covered it up? Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that's another major theory that would make sense. I know there's a lot of, yes, that is a complete possibility and something that has been floated. Dawn told me that TBI questioned them about that. They said, look, if there was an accident, a cover up, and he said, no, we would never do anything, how he says, but that was something that was even investigated. You definitely have to be a resident of Tennessee to get a phone. That's not the problem. I mean, we know plenty of people in Tennessee.
Just remind you to be sure check the house camper, even if they said they've already had.
Yeah, well. Baptist Church on Beach Creek. Hawkins County Rescue Squad, all members, mutual aid request from Church Hill Rescue on a search and rescue. Staging area is going to be at Mount Carmel Baptist.
Was that Dawn's 911 call? I don't know. I have no idea.
Church on Beach Creek. Also requesting.
Now, I understand that there are people that are going to say, no, that's not the case. And we all have our own theories of what happened. I think that that's probably likely. Something like that happened. I've always thought possibly. I've always thought that it was possibly an accident cover up because I never want to believe that parents could do anything terrible to their children. However, I know that they do, and I'm not naive to that fact. I mean, Hunter confirms that she was in the car, that you saw her that day. There are people that say that she went missing before that. It's such the whole thing is a mess.
Respond with six-wheeler and command trailer. First page, 1911. 506. 506. We acknowledge the page and the resource request. We've got several here at the station. We'll be en route to speak. Copy, acknowledge the page and resource request. 707, 715. Go ahead. The 1043 is Park Grant Building, reference to 1044.
Swimming makes you tired and it was hot. Look, I've taken my kids swimming before when they were younger. Her falling asleep in the car is really not that big of a deal personally. I don't think it is. Of course, you use a lot of energy swimming. 5-year-olds, what happens is if there's any kind of car ride on the way home, typically they're going to fall asleep. That is true. All of that is true. Well, I think that they had to. I don't think that they had a choice. I think because CPS was on them. I believe that they did have an open CPS case. I don't know exactly what it was for, but I do know that CPS was in their lives like they have always been. They would have been, if she hadn't been reported missing, then they would have been in a lot of trouble. So they didn't have much of a choice, I don't think.
Go ahead, go rest the floor.
Copy.
339.
941. All other units are tied up on 50 here, correct? Yeah, well, I'll be using your direction to find the bus. 10-4, I'm leaving the SO here.
For the complainant or the suspect? That's it. 806.
Go to.
Yes.
Is 317 on the scene.
All right. So, as we've heard quite a bit from the dispatch, yeah, well, I think there was some confusion about that, and off the top of my head, I can't even remember. But yeah, and all these things, you know, like I said, we're revisiting this case, and we're gonna talk about that pink rose as well. You know, we have a wealth of information from Dawn and Candace, whether it's true or not. Same thing with Hunter, who sat down with Chris McDonough of the interview room, and you know, he interviewed Candace, he interviewed Dawn over the phone, he interviewed Hunter and Hunter's mother, Allison, who has passed. But this is really, you know, what we're talking about here tonight is sort of the lead up of what happened, the day of, and in the past. You know, I mean, I get told a lot, and I did. You know, they say, well, you can't really hold their past against them, but why can't I? I mean, why can't you look at somebody's past and go, yeah, I mean, that's a problem, especially when it's just like a repeated thing. That's what that's what it always feels like. It's just like constantly over and over and over repeated. And there's always mishaps. There's always excuses. There's a reason that there's a reason the courts keep records of your past. But there's a reason for it. I mean, you think that they just, oh yeah, we'll just wait, a bank got robbed? Well, we should probably go check out the people that have been convicted and served time for bank robbery. Makes sense to me. But not only that, the fact that there are people that defend Don for what he's already admitted to will never cease to amaze me, ever. It never ceases to amaze me. And it's nauseating. I got to tell you, it really, really is. The fact that, I mean, defending the indefensible. And there are some out there that do that. I don't know why. If chicken tastes like wood, there's a reason. I'm not really sure what that means, but I like it. Maybe I do get it. I don't know. Gwen, good to see you. And what is it? 34 months. That's a long time. What does that mean? Thank you for your super sticker as well. Thank you. Let me see. Well, we're going to do that. We're going to do that on this channel. That's one of the, and I think that will go in order. I'll see if Chris will join us for some of that as well. And I'm sure that he would be more than willing to. And maybe, we'll get some other guests on here as well. Good to see you. How are you? Thank you. All right. So that covers really the day, or that covers the time before. There's obviously more to it, but that that gives you sort of the precursor to everything after that. And we will talk about that as well. So I appreciate that. And I appreciate you guys being here and listening, because it is very important. And once again, if you do have if anybody has any information, credible information, make sure that it's credible. Call 1-800-TBI fine. And I think that this is a good starting point to go from the beginning. And once again, to say that remains have been found that they believe are Summers is not true at all. It's just not true. People do this. These pop-up channels love to do this. Yeah, they're probably not. I mean, you know, we've done that, and it just, who knows? He could get pissed off again, and you know, I don't care. I really don't care if Dawn or Candace get pissed off at me, or if anybody gets pissed off at me for covering this. I'll cover it the way that I want. I've always done that. I'll continue to do it. I don't care. It's not not really a concern of mine. You know, I've got a lot of shit for it before, and big deal, you know. Big deal. What is it? But anyway, so thank you guys so much for being here. And we will, you know, I don't know if we'll do like one live a week about it, or, you know, maybe two until we get through it. But it's something, because there are a lot of new people, a lot of people that don't know this story. And by the way, this is just the tip of the iceberg. This is not, I mean, this kind of gives you the context, but this is nothing. There's so much more. Trust me. It's just more to this. And you know, it gets crazier than anybody could have ever imagined. And that's a fact. So thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for the gifted memberships. Thank you for the stickers in the chat. I appreciate that. The super stickers, and just being here and liking and sharing this out means more than you'll ever know. And hopefully that somebody has some information that they can give to help find Summer, and also many other missing children, you know, Michael Vaughn, Sebastian Rogers, you know, the list goes on and on and on. Emmanuel Haro. So anyway, thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate it. And I will catch you on the next one.